that's echoing. So, Rod, whenever you want to talk, just unmute yourself. I'm going to go ahead and mute you for now.
Okay.
So we're talking about light and darkness this week. And I just wanted to, before we get started talking about the actual topic, I just wanted to show you guys a few changes to the website. So in the reference library, we got Strong's Concordance. I rearranged a little bit of this so it was easier to use. If you guys are doing biblical research, you can actually, I'd like you to start using the website. So when you're actually looking up the topic, you can just go to reference library. You can type a word in right here, like say light, and it's going to bring up every place in the Bible that shows the word light. And so that really helps. There's also a King James dictionary here. This is a website full of commentary where people are explaining the meaning behind the passages. And there's also a lot of maps. I found a lot of really good maps. I tried to just put the website here, but when I tried to look up maps on there, it didn't really work well. So I just took the maps and put them directly on the page. So we got here maps of how Christianity spread. We got maps of the 12 tribes of Israel, and we've got maps of ancient Hebrew lands and what Jerusalem looked like, both in the first century and ancient Jerusalem. And we have maps of Israel in the first century. So I think this will be a good tool for everyone to use. So I'd like you just, if you're doing biblical research, hopefully that'll make everything easier for you. So everything's in one spot. So to light and darkness, I use the concordance to look up light. And what me and Robert were talking about shortly before everyone joined was it seemed like light kind of evolves in the Bible. It's at first, it seems like they're talking about real light, as in, reflective light or a fire or a torch or like physical light. And then it seems to get more and more metaphorical as time goes on. And so I skipped over a lot of the stuff that was in Genesis. And it really seems to, the first place that really starts to speak to me that I felt like was what I wanted to talk about was in Ecclesiastes. And then I found some passages in Job, and Job can be kind of depressing. If you read Job and you don't read it all the way to the end and within context, it can seem really depressing. So I would like to talk about these points right here at the top. It says, wisdom is better than foolishness, just as light is better than darkness. And then in Job, they ask, why is light given to a man whose way is hidden? And then the third one, you are the light of the world, a town built on a hill that cannot be hidden. So my own thoughts about all of this in Ecclesiastes, kind of where it took me was this passage here. These are kind of my own thoughts based on my research. We have all kinds of default modes in our thinking. When we read something, we kind of put our own filter on it. And we do not realize God is involved in our lives until our lives take a turn for the worst. What God does for you is totally unpredictable. You can't control it. And hardships in our life expose what our core beliefs are. So when I was reading Job, he's talking about, it says here, why is light given to a man whose way is hid? And at first, it could seem like he's kind of complaining about like, why would an unrighteous man receive a gift from God? When someone who is righteous, that goes to church all the time, maybe they're not given a blessing. And at first, it could kind of seem like maybe he's complaining or he's saying it's not fair. But in more reading, I started to understand what he really means by that. And it's exactly what happened with me and Earl last week, what we were talking about. There is no way that you can really control your destiny. There's God's plan for you is his plan, and you cannot predict what it is. You can't really do anything to help it along. And I feel like I myself am dealing with the repercussions of me trying to control my own life. I think it's important for you to just, when you say to surrender, it's not just about giving up your addictions, but almost completely giving up your expectations of control. Job 3:23 says, why is light given to a man whose way is hid from him, who knows not his way? That is, which way to turn himself, what course to take to obtain comfort in his miseries, or to get out of them. And whom God hath hedged in, whom God hath put, as it were, in a prison, so that it can see no way or possibility of escape, but all refuge fails him. So that's saying God, light is given to people who have no way out. There's no other way out. They feel like they're at an end, an impasse. They're desperate. And that's who God gives the light to. So this right here is a lot of different ways of looking at that verse. And I just wanted to read, this is a commentary from, this is an old commentary, but I'd like to read it to you. Number one, those suffering may be the very means which are needful to develop the true state of the soul. Such was the case with Job. Two, they may be the proper punishment of sin in the heart, of which the individual was not fully aware, but which may be distinctly seen by God. There may be pride and the love of ease and self-confidence and ambition and a desire for reputation. Such appear to have been some of the besetting sins of Job. They are needful to teach true submission and to show whether a man is willing to resign himself to God. They may be the very things which are necessary to prepare the individual to die. At the same time that people often desire death and feel that it would be a relief, it might be to them the greatest possible calamity. They may be wholly unprepared for it. For a sinner, the grave contains no rest. The eternal world furnishes no repose. One design of God is such sorrows may be, to show that the wicked how intolerable will the future pain, and how important it is for them to be ready to die. If they cannot bear the pains and sorrows of a few hours in this sort of life, how can they endure eternal sufferings? If it is so desirable to be released from the sorrows of the body here, if it is felt that the grave with all that is repulsive in it would be a place of repose, how important is it to find some way to be secured from everlasting pains? The true place of release from suffering for a sinner is not the grave. It is in the pardoning mercy of God and the pure heaven to which he is invited through the blood of the cross. In that holy heaven is the only real repose for suffering and from sin. And heaven will be all the sweeter in proportion to the extremity of pain which is endured on earth. I thought that was really powerful, that, you know, if you can't handle the grief that you're going through now, how bad is it going to be if that were to last even a minute longer? What if it was forever? Or what do you think about the idea that a man has to be at his bottom in order to get the message?
Well, it was told to me here recently, it made a whole lot of sense, that I've been given a whole lot of rope to hang myself with in life. And I don't really get life until I get to the very end of my rope. And then it's real easy to see what's right because I'm at the very end of it. And I have to let God take over. You know what I mean? I can't remember exactly how it was said, but it made a whole lot of sense at the time. You know, it's my will has got me in some real tight jams, and I can find peace and serenity whenever I give up all of these earthly things that I can rattle around in my head. And I've had a real spiritual experience. I was just thinking about whenever I was down there in Florida and the Florida sunshine, man, and the light down there and how that sunshine feels different. You know what I mean? The whole thing about being down there in Florida, I feel is so powerful for me because I grew up around here and my will feels like it knows everything around here. So the control, I feel like I'm in control of all this stuff around here. And whenever I was taken out of this place that I feel like I control so much in and put down there in Florida where I knew nothing about it, there was all these palm trees and it was all strange and this weird feeling of this light from the sun. My will had to surrender. You know what I mean? Because I had to admit I didn't know anything about the place. So it was real easy for me to surrender my will. And that Florida sunshine, man, it was amazing. And I'm just so happy that your brother's down there right now. And he's getting to feel that same sunshine. You know what I mean? Getting to feel that same light, because I promise you, Florida's the sunshine state. And that there's something about that sunshine and something about all those iguanas and all of the beautiful creation that our Lord's created down there and how powerful it is, man. So it's just a blessing. And I think you're exactly right. Whenever my will has driven me to the point to surrender, man, it's so powerful. All these messages, man. I was just digging around for a Bible and I found this Life Recovery Bible, and it happens to be a 12-step recovery Bible. You know what I mean? I'm sitting here looking at it, I'm like, how could this be? How could it be that I'm looking for a Bible and I get one that goes along with the 12-step program? You know what I'm saying? It's just one of those God things, man. And I was just reading in here, there was 12 apostles, and it's just a great thing, man. So I'm truly, truly blessed to be here and blessed to share this with you guys, man. So it's a real thing. Thank you, man.
Yeah, that's happened to me many times. The thing that you really want, sometimes it's been within arm's reach for months and you never looked over. And then all of a sudden you pick it up and you open it up and the first page you come to is like, oh, that's the answer right there. And it's been sitting within arm's reach me. I didn't even know that book was sitting there. That's happened to me a bunch of times. So the next passage about light, this is the first passage that I came to, was Ecclesiastes 2:13. I'm going to shut the door and I'll be right back. Just give me a second. Sorry, there was people in my kitchen and they were distracting me. All right, so Ecclesiastes 2:13. And I saw that wisdom went so much before folly, as much as light is diverse from darkness. So I didn't really understand that, and I had to read it a bunch of times, and I looked at a bunch of different translations. And the one that let me just go ahead and read. This is from the Wycliffe Bible. And we talked about what the Wycliffe Bible was. Basically, the Roman Catholic Church wrote the King James Bible, and this is translated directly from Latin that was early on before the formation of the Catholic Church. When I had turned me to all the works which mine hands had made, and to the travails in which I had sweated over in vain, I saw in all things vanity and torment of soul, and that nothing under the sun dwelleth. And so this is translating that in a way that's a little bit more understandable. When I turned and looked upon all the works which my hands had made, and upon the labor which I had sweated over, I saw that everything was empty and futile, like chasing the wind, and nothing remained stable or unchanging under the sun. I said, what new thing can even he who followeth the king do? The eyes of a wise person be in his head, and a fool goeth in the darkness. But I learned that the same perisheth, or the same death would come to both of them. And I said in my heart, if one death shall be for both the fool and for me, what profiteth me that I gave more busyness or more effort and study to the wisdom? And I spoke with myself and understood that this was also empty and futile. So I really wish I could read the whole thing, but because of time, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I really encourage you to click this link right here on Ecclesiastes 2:13. Basically, what's happening in Ecclesiastes, they think that the author of this book is Solomon, and I have a little bit about who the author is up here. But Solomon is the guy who wrote Psalms. He was a son, or he was a descendant of David, and Solomon rebuilt the temple. He was extremely wealthy. Basically, he was the ultimate weekend warrior. He could have anything he wanted, and he pursued everything. And not like he pursued drinking and getting drunk for the purposes to find out if it would bring his life meaning. Not to just get drunk and have a good time, but he was intentionally going in with wisdom to experience all things and see if he could find meaning in them. He experimented with sex to see if it would bring meaning to his life. He experimented with, even in this passage, it says wisdom. He tried to do everything he could to become the most wise man. And the pursuit of wisdom did not help. And he says, even the fool who did not pursue wisdom is going to die. We're all going to die. And what will come of it? Who will my descendant be? Who will be the next person in lineage? And what are they going to do with what I created? Even if I try to be wise, my grandson's probably going to be an idiot. So what good does it do? Nothing. Basically, it's really depressing. It's saying, nothing we do on this earth under the sun is ever going to amount to anything. But you have to read all the way to the end. He basically says that if we're not doing something for the glory of God, it's all vanity. It's all there's nothing that's ever going to really make you happy. There are rich people who have everything. I mean, just look at Robin Williams. The guy won every award you can think of in acting. He's a beloved celebrity. Seemingly can have anything he wants. And what's he do? He offs himself. And Hollywood's full of people who off themselves because they can't find meaning and purpose in their lives. It's only through God's purpose that we can have anything that's lasting. And he talks about what if our 70 years under the sun is all that there is? If that's how you believe that our 70 years under the sun is all there is, then it truly is depressing, because you'll never find happiness or meaning in anything under the sun. In Ecclesiastes 11:7, it says, the light is sweet and delightable to the eyes to see the sun. If a man liveth many years, is glad in all these, he oughteth to have a mind of the dark time, and of those many days yet to come. And when those shall come, the things pass away, shall be reproved of vanity. If a person liveth many years and is happy in all of them, he is still ought to remember the dark time and the many days yet to come. When they do come, the things passed away shall rebuke as empty and futile. So on your basically saying on your deathbed, you're going to look back at everything you did and realize none of it was worth anything.
Kit, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Of my book that I've got is one of them is Life Application Study Bible. Ecclesiastes is talking about, this is an analogy. It says the molded bunny lies in the basket surrounded by green paper grass With Easter morning eyes wide with anticipation, the little boy carefully lifts the chocolate figure and bites into one of the long ears. But the sweet taste fades quickly, and the child looks again at the candy in his hand. It's hollow. So empty, futile, hollow, nothing. The words ring of disappointment and disillusionment. Yet this is the life experience of many, grasping the sweet things, possessions, experience, power, and pleasure. They find nothing in God. Life is empty and meaningless, and they despair. Kind of what Eric was going over about things. And then at the very end, Solomon finds out it doesn't matter how many people are in his, how many women are in his harem, his riches, or anything like that. At the end, there is no feeling like the closeness you might have with God if you let it. These other things are going to pass. So you feel empty without that relationship with God. And I wanted to tell you that pronunciation of white is Wycliffe. Okay.
This guy right here explained to me the meaning of the word vanity. In that passage, they mention vanity over 40 times in the book of Ecclesiastes, but the Hebrew word that they use is hevel. It's not vanity, but hevel, and hevel has a little bit more meaning. And vanity can kind of lose meaning today. Like it can mean like you just look at yourself in the mirror or whatever, or it's all about yourself. But hevel in the Hebrew word has a lot more meaning. It actually means smoke or vapor. And what he's saying is all things under the sun are hevel. And what he means is they're not obtainable. They're not graspable. You can't really fully understand them. Every time you think you've got something and you think you've got control of it, all of a sudden it just disappears and it's not there anymore. When you think you have love, all of a sudden your lover leaves you. Whenever you think you have the respect of your child, all of a sudden they talk back to you. Every time you think you've really made a difference in the life of a student, all of a sudden they can't even remember your name. It's everything on earth is hevel, and that can be depressing. But it's only through finding a relationship with God that you can find something that is not hevel. And it's ironic because anyone listening to this would say God is the most hevel thing there is, because you can't really control or grasp God. But that's what this video, and it actually just hit me. That's what this video right here is about. He draws this diagram where this is kind of the idea of what people have about what Christians believe, that it's about me on earth. And when I die, I've got a place I can either go to heaven or hell. And it's all about me. It's me centered. But what he's trying to say in the diagram at the bottom is that it's not about us at all. We have to take, it's not about, the Bible is not about us individually. It's about what God is doing on earth. God has a plan and he uses us, and none of us are in control of it. And then that's really the message of it's not about a decision you need to make. It's about you realizing what God is doing. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. But, even back in the Old Testament, Isaiah 60:19, he says, no longer will you have the sun for light by day, nor for brightness will the moon give you light, but you will have the Lord for an everlasting light and your God for your glory. That's just the precursor of telling them that, what Jesus is going to be like.
The next thing I want to talk about comes from Jesus, from the Sermon on the Mount. He tells the people on the Sermon on the Mount, you are the light of the world. Let your light shine before others that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. He tells them that they are like a shining city on a hill that can't be hidden. And this is where the song, you might have heard the song, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. That's where it comes from. And here's what he says about salt and light. You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp, put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on a stand. It gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. And so right there, it tells us that the reason why we do good deeds is so that others will do similar. And then in passage 17 through 20, it says the title of this section is the fulfillment of the law. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, not the stroke of a pen will by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished. Therefore, anyone who sets aside one of the least of these commands and teaches others accordingly will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you that unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven. So that goes back to what we were saying early. This is one of the first things we talked about when we started this church, was about how Jesus did not come to destroy the 10 commandments, but he actually came to reestablish them, because the people that were running the Jewish church had created all kinds of rules about washing your hands and what you could eat and how you were supposed to wear your clothes. And he actually came to simplify things. We kind of think about the 10 commandments and things as being too much, like we can't live up to it. But compared to what the Jews in the time of the first century were living through, what we have to live up to is actually pretty easy, because we don't have to dress a certain way. We don't have to go certain places. There aren't, they had to, for instance, whenever you're getting ready in the morning, they have to tie their right shoe first and then their left shoe. And there's all kinds of words they have to say, like the washing of the hands when you eat isn't just washing of the hands. There's a whole ceremony you have to go through where you have to say all these things. And Jesus, like I said last week, he was a rebel. He didn't follow almost any of the rules that they wanted him to follow. And that's why they wanted to kill him. But the 10 commandments are not that difficult to follow. The hardest one, in my opinion, is another reason why we started this, is the Sabbath, to remember the Sabbath and to keep it holy. And it is difficult in this busy world to take time and not do anything, to just sit and do nothing. Spend time with God can be a difficult thing to do. But to honor our parents, to not lie, to not steal, those are things we can manage fairly easily without a lot of, I think we can all do that. But the things that the early Jews the Jews in the first century were having to do, basically it was left up to the whims of the people in charge, the Pharisees. They could just make up a rule tomorrow that you have to eat fish on Friday or you're not going to heaven. And that's what God or Jesus, he wasn't following those rules. But here he says he came to fulfill the prophecy, to fulfill the law.
Mm-hmm.
So the last passage I want to talk about is John 3:20, and this is one I just I found right before church, and I'll just read it out to you. Let it speak for itself. Light is an important symbol in the Bible. Jesus is described as the light in several passages. John 1:9, this light reveals things, and some of what it uncovers we would rather keep a secret. Those who commit sin would prefer that sin stay hidden and not be exposed. The Greek term here, translated as evil or wicked, is phalla, which also means worthless, base, or no good. A life without God may seem satisfying for a while. Hebrews 11:25, but it's ultimately hopeless, worthless, and ends in disaster. Mark 8:36, this is not just a Christian opinion. Many atheists subscribe to this idea as well. They look for ways to avoid living as though life has no meaning, but recognize that with no God, there is no legitimate meaning to life. In order to live a life of purpose, rationality, and a purpose to believe, and a person has to believe in purpose. So I just want to connect this to what Eric's been saying. He referred to his God as the higher power. And in the 12-step program, that's how they refer to him, because they believe, the people who created the 12-step program believe that without God, you're gonna live a life of meaningless, and it will end in depression and disaster. And so it's not necessary to them necessarily that you say which God you believe in, but that you believe in a higher power, because without at least that belief, you're doomed to fail. And it's the same with the Masonic Lodge. We talked about that probably 5 or 6 weeks ago. We talked about how the Masonic Lodge will not take a member who doesn't believe in a higher power. They don't care if you believe in Satan. They don't care if you believe in Buddhism. But if you don't believe in something bigger than yourself, you are doomed to create a situation of disaster.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, it's not about how you feel. That's their stated. That's
Yeah.
what they say. It's not about how I feel or you feel. I'm not trying to convince anyone that they can believe anything they want. I'm just simply saying nobody wants someone in their organization who doesn't believe in anything beyond themselves. If you're all about yourself, you can't help the group.
Can I share something?
Yes, please.
So I've been reading a lot in this book, which this is the big book. It's the 12-step book. And it was written more for the times now. The Bible is ultimately what this book, the same principles are handed down in this book, but this was written in more modern times, even though it was written 75 years ago. But it talks about how a spiritual experience, and that's what I'm working a spiritual program, and it's the same message, God, it's the same message. What is so much harder these days, what I think is so much harder these days, and this book sums it up pretty well, is that says this world of ours has made more material progress in the last century than in all the millennium, which went before. And then it goes on to say, almost everyone knows the reason. Students of ancient history tell us that the intellect of men back in those days was equal to the best of today. So it's saying that the intellect of like Galileo and all those people a long time ago, they were as smart as the men today. And it says that the spirit of modern scientific inquiry, research, and invention is the reason why basically it's a material world today. It used to be a very spiritual world way back in the day, and it was easier to be with God, to find God's message, to see the light, to see the darkness, because of all of how you didn't have all these material things to distract you. You know what I mean? And so it's switched now. Now it's a very material world, and you really have to search for that spiritual thing, because we're thinking we're finding this spiritual stuff in these phones and these computers. You know what I mean? And it's just all this material stuff that has popped up in this world in the past 100 years. You know what I mean? That's what I think the big deal is. You know what I mean? That's really powerful.
You kind of helped me kind of consolidate something I've been thinking about right there. When David, the guy who killed Goliath with a sling and he became a king, he used to play a harp, and his king Saul had him in his court as a harp player. And Saul, whenever he had an evil spirit, he would have David come and play. And when David played his harp, the evil spirit would, go away from him. So they really saw playing music as a way to connect with God. That was magical. That was spiritual when you played music. And I could see how you could feel that, because you get very emotional. You have fluctuations in your brain chemistry when a beautiful song is playing. Completely changes how people are thinking and acting. But I'm sitting here with a BandLab app, and I can create any kind of drum beat, any kind of flute. I can have a horn section jump on. I can create any kind of music I want. But it is difficult to have a spiritual experience just with all of this technology right at my fingertips. I can have a whole band. I can have people singing right now. But it is not easy to feel a connection with God in that way.
Yeah.
David, do you know anything about David and his musical playing? You've read Psalms more than I have. Is David there? He might have walked away.
He's got it muted.
So, Robert, what did you find out about light? Did you do any research this week?
A little bit, but like right during this discussion, talking about light and stuff led me more to, you can't have light without dark. So I started following rabbit holes about darkness and found someone talking about, in Hebrew, there's two words for darkness. Hosek, it's spelled weird, and Arafel. Like, I think Hosek is the most common form, is what I read, of more like, darkness without light, walk into a dark room. But Arafel, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, was a different word. This guy talks about how it has a meaning that is something more than just darkness. Like they use Exodus 20:21. We read, and Moses approached the Arafel where God was.
Darkness,
And,
where God was?
Yeah, like and I've read other things where they describe, shrouded in darkness. It's like a different word for darkness. You've got two different meanings of dark.
Right.
So I wonder how much translation's been missed or lost when they talk about things like darkness.
Right. Some of
But
it
he goes on to talk about the darkness is a different type of darkness, and he talks about mentioned in Exodus, and he mentions the plague of darkness, but he uses the term hosek, which is the more common use of darkness. Could be felt. But, it's like going back to light in Genesis. God created the heavens and the earth, but it was all in darkness and no form. Then he created light, and then he separated the two. Talking about how it kind of gives that physical representation of light and dark. But I was just finding different stuff on that led me toward darkness. We talked about light, but we haven't really hit up on darkness much.
I felt the same way during my research. And as you can see, whenever you look at the topic, I switched it from light to light and darkness. Because once I got into it, you can't have light without darkness.
Yeah, it's like, but you also have the metaphorical, light meaning spiritual goodness, but the darkness being spiritual evilness, if you will. So I wonder if, when you look into some of the stories in the Bible, there's a lot about the light and the dark. There are actual physical darkness, like, the blotting out of sun, the blowing out of candles, the clouds, but then there's also, shrouded in darkness.
Yeah, it's kind of like what we originally said. If you start up here in Genesis, it seems to be more about actual like light, and then
Mhm.
as you go on, it seems to get more and more metaphorical every time they mention it.
Yeah.
In the New Testament, it seems to be mostly referring to Jesus and walking in the light, to light your path.
Yeah.
And that's what all of this started on, was when Eric mentioned walking in the light. And it can be a very difficult, it's an ongoing journey to figure out what that means. And that's something all of us have to do individually. And I don't think you can grasp the full weight of that by just listening to someone talk. You have to experience it. And I think that's what he's saying here in Job, whenever he says, why is light given to a man whose way is hid? Because you might think, if a person goes to church every Sunday and they get all their kids together and they go every Sunday, that's the person who should get God's gifts of revelation. But I feel like I don't know where I'm going, and I feel like the only time, okay, let me just put it this way. Every time I have tried to control where I'm going, things go awry.
Yeah. That's just
But the place I end up is always better than the place I planned on being.
well, talking about whenever you're trying to force your fate, your destiny. People who go to church every single Sunday, every single Wednesday, we talked about that when we were kids, and it's not about the attendance. It's not about getting your ticket punched.
Right.
It's how you're going to live your life. And just because anybody goes to church every single solitary day they possibly can, doesn't mean they're doing it for the right reasons. They're trying to get that ticket punch. They're trying to show people that they're spiritual and they're walking with Jesus in the light of Jesus. And deep down, they're not. They're just there because that's what you're supposed to do. You're just getting your ticket punched. And where the guy that's beat down, he, not getting a spiritual message from anything. He has, call it an epiphany, call it divine intervention. Something happens. God has shown him a light, and it's given him reason. And he
has
yeah.
no other way to go except for the way God gives him.
Right. He's not trying, he was living a life, we talk about this in different stories in the Bible, and you're trying to live a life that isn't meant for you, getting your ticket punched. But this guy's getting jealous because Joe Blow over here has seen the light of God. He has seen a message that wasn't being presented when he wasn't looking for it. He wasn't forcing it. I may just be rambling.
No, you're not at all. No. I personally have been holding on to a lot of things in my life, thinking that that's what God wanted for me. And I've just started to finally surrender. That's the part I'm surrendering control over what I think God thinks is good.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's kind of like we've always, I'm sure everybody in this video right now has had the same conversation, but we all get different things out of different messages. We'll all get something different out of this. But I've always lived, my personal beliefs in my life is, have faith. Don't try to, force anything. Just have faith. Everything will work out the way God has a plan.
Right.
And I've always felt that way in every single tiny detail of my life. Everything from when I'm looking to buy a vehicle to when I open a book just to read the Bible or something. It's just, it doesn't matter what you're looking for. Just have faith that it'll be shown to you.
I feel like um, there's a difference between being nice and being truthful.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the truth can hurt people. And sometimes you avoid telling the truth because you don't want to hurt someone's feelings. And I think I'm starting to grasp how being nice to people can hurt them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you want to spare their feelings, but it's kind of like sparing the rod, spoiling the child. My old boss, we talked about that exact phrase, spare the rod, spoil the child, when his impression of it from readings of the Bible that he had studied, it wasn't spoil the child, it was condemn the child to hell.
Hmm.
You know, you try to be nice and all you're doing is not helping anybody. But you, in the same breath, it's not about, just hurting people's feelings just because you're tired of trying to be nice.
Right.
It's that fine line of actually helping somebody.
In relationships, men can lie to women and things like that in order to get what they want. But you can also lie to people to try to control them, or you can lie, like I said, just to try to protect their feelings. And sometimes the truth is what's needed. And I think when you really search out what the truth is, it's not necessarily always going to be something that feels good.
Yeah, that's what I am praying for Cody, because Cody had said once before, years ago, that he was masking his feelings by taking drugs or alcohol. And when he was off of it for a while, he said, it's actually good to feel the tears, to let it all out. And I really think what Eric has gone through, Jesus will use a person like Eric that has been right there with them and just been rock bottom, and then saying, I was wrong. I have this relationship that I don't know how I existed without it. I mean, Eric's going to do a lot of good work in a lot of people's lives, starting with his own family, But in 2 Corinthians 6:14, going back to what Robert was talking about, darkness, it says, what fellowship has light with darkness? Well, we all run into people that we thought, oh, I should get away from that sinner. I don't want to be seen with that sinner or whatever. The other night, I was hosting at the Drunken Rooster Grill, and this man came in and was asking things about the menu and blah, blah, blah. And so he started talking about church for some reason. And so I said, well, I'm Baptist. And he said, and you're working where they sell liquor? And I said, well, I'm not partaking in the liquor. They don't come in here just because they want liquor. They're eating. So I said, but that you don't have to associate, bad things because person is there. You could go on and on about, they drank wine, fertilized wine and all that, or fermented. But, I just looked at him and I just said, I'm not going to say anything about, get into it with him or anything. But God says, or Jesus says, Paul urges believers not to form binding relationships with non-believers, because this might weaken their Christian commitment, integrity, or standards. It would be a mismatch. Earlier, Paul had explained that this did not mean isolating oneself from non-believers. Paul even tells Christians to stay with their non-believing spouses. Paul wants believers to be active in their witness to Christ to non-believers, but they would not lock themselves into personal or business relationships that could cause them to compromise the faith. Believers should do everything in their own power to avoid situations that could force them to divide their loyalties. And then he goes on, and here's another name for Satan, Belial. You ever heard that?
Oh,
Yeah, Belial, Belial. It says is a name that Paul uses for Satan. For those who have discovered God's light, there can be no fellowship or compromise with the darkness. So, you know, a lot of times a Christian will say, I don't want to do this or that because it might hurt my Christian witness,
Mhm.
you know. And I want to tell you something. Robert Nutt, when we were in Dallas, we were going to San Antonio that time, you and me and Kit and Kay.
Yes.
And I think on the Riverwalk, or maybe it was in Dallas at that game place that we go to. I think I was going to have a second drink, and Robert reminded me that I had taught about being under the influence, having too much, do not be drunk with wine. And I did not have another drink because I thought, what am I doing with my witness with this kid?
You know, the only thing I remember about that Dave and Buster's was me and Kid going into the games. I don't remember the dinner or anything else.
Yeah, well, you probably wouldn't, but see what I'm saying here, through the eyes of a child, you were like, okay, this is what she's taught us. So is she going to have another one and drive us in Dallas traffic, you know? So I stopped it right there just because of that influence. And I thought, wow, I shouldn't do that. But I sure did like those daiquiris.
So here's how I feel about this light and darkness thing. I'm more familiar with the darkness than I am with the light.
I'm sure you are.
I've spent years of my life walking in the darkness, creating darkness of my own. I mean, literally, I've lived most of my adult life in the dark. So my conviction is strong. I'm not scared to go into the I'm not scared to go in and battle in the darkness. My conviction in the light is so I feel like I got all this armor, you know what I mean? Because a lot of things that people are afraid of with other people, I don't fear, because I've been in that, you know what I mean? I've been that person, I've been that evil, I've been that darkness. So I feel like I'm this good fight in the light. It's so exciting, and it's so different, and it's so new. And I hope that it doesn't wear off. I hope that I'm able to keep going. And I feel like I know that I'm living in God's will right now. I know that this is God's, and I'm so comfortable with it that it's awesome. The serenity, the peace, it's a great thing. You know what I mean? And I go to bed whenever it gets dark out. I'm telling you right now, 7:30, 8 o'clock, I'm asleep. You know what I mean? And
Right.
I've been in places where the one thing that I can remember the most about is in Tulsa. I was going to the gym, and I was going North Tulsa, the McKinley Y, and I was going after I worked, and it was dark outside, and it was all these racist black people. And I thought, you know, and it was terrible. It felt just like being in prison. And then something happened to where it switched, and I had to start working. I was going in the morning, and I'm telling you, these were the best people I've ever been around in my life. Were those morning people there? There was all the black professionals, and it was like, holy cow. And it's all those people that go out into the light. Those are my people. You know what I mean? I'm with those people. You know what I mean? So I've been fighting the darkness for so long, you know, that it's crazy, you know, not wanting to be in the darkness. So anyway, I'm just blessed to have discovered the light. And that's all I got. So thank you.
Amen. Amen.
I've been told to stay away from Eric Schreiber so many times by so many people. Some of the people in this video call, and I've always known there was something that was there, that you had a capacity to do great good. And then if you ever decided to turn towards the light, that you could do more good than any of us could. And Robert can attest to a time in church camp when we were about 8th grade, where I was talking to a whole bunch of kids that were all peers about my same age. And I was telling them about preaching to the choir, and how if you're always just talking to the people at your church, that you're not doing God's work. That God wants you to go out and talk to the people who really need your help. And that if you were to go to a concert or a bar and you were to talk about God there, that you were more likely to do what Jesus was doing. Because Jesus ate with tax collectors. He ate with murderers. He ate with people. People judged Jesus for the company he kept. And I've always felt like, and I've had more miraculous experiences by being in your proximity, Eric, than I have with any preacher or anybody at a church. Me and you have witnessed miracles that are unexplainable. And, we could go on and on about some of the things that we've experienced, but it is definitely God. I've had trees fall on my house just so someone would invite me to church, just so I could bring Eric with me. Things like that that are totally unexplainable. And there's a lot of them, actually. We could probably have a whole episode just based on things that me and Eric have experienced. But something led me to that. It wasn't me doing it. I didn't know. My way was hid, just like they say here in Job 3:23. I don't know why I chose to hang out with a person who wanted to destroy things. I don't know why I wanted to hang out with a person who wanted to help destroy me. I don't know why I did those things. My way was hid. I didn't know why. But I do know that God was leading me like a light in darkness. And I know that it was because one day Eric would do a lot of good, more good than I ever could.
Yeah.
We've had that discussion 100 times with that preacher about when we were the kids about that same time. And he was grabbing us because we were arguing with him about about Jesus. And he was like, and he gave us that example. Jesus wouldn't be there. He'd be teaching the church and talking to those people. And we're like, no, he wouldn't be. I remember we were like 12, 13 years old. And we were like, no, he wouldn't be. He'd be over here with the drunkards and stuff, trying to teach them, talk to them.
Was that Ken Overturf?
Yes.
Yeah.
And what it was about was me and Robert were having a biblical discussion, and they all wanted us to stand up, sit down, sing this verse, stand up, sit down, sing this verse. And we're just like, we're trying to have a real conversation here. We're looking up Revelations, and we have a point, and you guys are all missing it. Really, you should invite me up on stage to share what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because go ahead.
No, I said I could see that for sure.
They were upset with us because we were not standing up and sitting down, because we were so engrossed with our biblical conversation that we didn't have time to deal with their protocols.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that's like, we all know somebody who has come over to be a Christian, to follow the light, and then something happens, whether it's in the world, whether it's in their personal life, and they didn't like it. And they use that excuse, how could God let that happen? And then they abandon God. They abandon everything that they say. They started to believe it. And my thing is, if you went that route, your faith was never strong with God in the first place. You know, it's
Yeah.
like you talk about, Eric, you've been in some dark places, and we all have been to an extent. You know, like when I was in Iraq and stuff, I had people that, you know, they chose not to believe in worship God because of what we were doing. Because we were asked, if need be, you would have to kill people. And they
Yeah.
use the Ten Commandments as, you know, well, God said, thou shalt not kill. And so you try to have conversations about that stuff. But when you're in those dark places, it's when you come out stronger. The light is a little brighter. You know, it's when you when you hit a dark spot or you hit a road bump in your life and suddenly, oh, it's all God's fault, and you abandon that route. That's when it's like you were never there anyway. You were never experiencing it. Whether you were going through motions, doing it for some other reason other than the reason for you to come to God and have that experience. You know what I mean?
Yes.
For me personally, some of my biggest the people who have kind of condemned me the most are people that they themselves can't get themselves to come to church. You know, just like me inviting someone sometimes can lead to them telling me, well, you go to church. It's like, it's my church. I'm leading it. And they're just like, oh, you can't be a preacher. And people just look at me and they say the same thing about me being a teacher. You can't be a teacher. What? You're a teacher? And it's just like, yes, I have things to teach. I have faith. I have things to tell people. I don't understand why that's so hard to believe. Apparently there's things I have said that have ruined my witness, obviously, where people think that I'm so bad that I can't do good things. And if you've read the Bible at all, you'd realize that those are the people who do the good things, are the people who have experienced the bad.
Right.
The Bible's
And-
not full of righteous people that did everything correct. None of them.
Right. Yeah, that's right. And besides that, you're just sharing the gospel with them, the good news. You're just sharing that because you have overcome so many bad things, you know, and you look now on that as a darkness in your life. So, you know, I prayed and prayed for you through high school. I mean, all the time, but through high school we had some bad times, but I never gave up on you. You know, Eric was in that group too, you know, that I was like, oh boy, I don't want to see my kid going down this road. But, you know, Eric had to hit bottom and do all that to come to where he is today, because he is so strong-willed that, you know, he thought he could do it all himself. He didn't realize what he was missing out on until he got to this point. And like we said before, he is blessed and he'll continue helping more people. We just got to always lift each other up. And, you know, if that means we all go to somewhere that we all hear the same words as he does, because, you know, I still feel like I should go to Al-Anon and that recovery group, you know, for people that have been around alcoholics and stuff, and their mindset. And I actually have Dusty Brixey's book here on the 12th step. And that is a very interesting book to read, because it kind of gives you that insight of their thinking, you know.
It's a way to make religious beliefs palatable to people who are not ready to hear it.
Yes.
You like Jesus says, when you're it's time for you to see, you'll see. Whenever you have ears to hear, you'll hear it, but it'll be hidden from you until you're ready.
Yeah.
When people, you know, when you do something and people ask, yeah, what would Jesus do? I like to say he'd get pissed off and throw tables.
That's right.
Yeah, probably the opposite of whatever you thought.
Yeah.
Mhm. Did we
Um,
lose Dave Hopper and his friend?
I think so. I'm not sure. They may be having other obligations. I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, it's been good today, Kit.
This has been my favorite meeting so far.
Yeah. It's been a fun one.
I'd like to go, Eric, go ahead.
I said I enjoyed it. You know, guys, I don't have a lot of religious background to bring to this, but I get a lot out of it. So thank you for letting me be a part of it. It's a true blessing, and I plan on sharing this blessing. You know what I mean? That's the only way that I can keep it, is to share it, because it'll keep flowing to me the more that I give it out. So I'm really liking it. And again, you guys.
I love the way you worded that, because Hevel, back to Hevel. What did you say? Can you say it again? You said, just say, see if you can remember what you just said. Say it again.
He
Unless
said
you
that.
give it away, you can't keep it. I love that.
Yeah.
Unless you give it away, you can't keep it.
No, that's the beautiful part of this. All these blessings that I get, I have to continue to give them away, or else I'll stop getting it. So
Yeah.
if I plan on receiving more blessings, I've got to give the ones away that I've got, you know, and it's just, there's an inflow and an outflow. It comes in and I give it out. And it's a powerful thing. It's a principle that I'm starting to practice in life, you know, and it's something that, to where before, if I got something, I'd keep it for myself, and the selfish pride in me would want to keep it, hold on to it, and twist it around and figure out how it worked, and then destroy it and throw it to the side. So these blessings that I'm receiving, man, I love to hand them out just as I got them, because it's a beautiful thing, and I'm only getting them through the grace of God. So thank you, guys. Blessing to be here.
Eric,
Yeah.
I feel like you have a gift for saying the things in ways that I can't say them always because of your personal experience. You know, I really feel like everything that we've done up until this point, until you became a part of it, I didn't know what it was about. And I felt like the week before you started, I felt like I was starting to get it. But once you've joined, now I understand. And,
Right.
And I feel like our future lies with you. Getting more people on here is something that I have not been able to do. Whenever I go to school and I invite my coworkers, if I invite my friends on Facebook, they're not showing up. But you know where to find people who need this message. And I feel like our future lies with you. So please keep doing it. And I just I was going to give Rod the last word as far as what we would talk about next week. But since he's not on here, I'd like to go with what you just said. Giving. Let's do giving next week.
Okay.
All right, guys. I love you very much. May God richly bless all of you. And may he bless our search for truth. And may he bless all of our research and guide our eyes to the message that he wants us to get.
Okay. Bless you.
Love you
Go
guys. Eric, I'll see you later. You can come by later.
And yeah, man, I am Justice and Jenner actually on the way over here. Shay's gonna watch the Justice, and I'm gonna give her some locks to a door and help her out. Make things are still going good there. So
Okay.
whenever they get here and we do all that, I'm shooting over to your place. All right, man.
All right, that's amazing. You're amazing. Love you.
Yeah. Love
All right.
you. Bye.
Guys.
Bye, guys.
Boom.